Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at something pretty different.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, we are heading over to Nepal to take a look at the theater scene there, but not exactly what you might be thinking of.
Right, we're not going to be talking about actors or plays, really.
Yeah, more behind the scenes.
Yeah, we're talking about sound design in the Nepali theater.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up a good point that a lot of times, we think about theater, we think about the visuals, right?
The spectacle of it.
Exactly. The costumes, the stage design, all that kind of stuff. But, sound is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have you ever been like watching a movie and then a sound cue just totally like
Changes the mood.
changes the mood, or even a piece of music? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just completely shifts your experience.
Yeah, and you don't even realize you're being manipulated by it.
Right. Exactly. Just, it's like subliminal almost.
Total manipulation.
Yeah.
But it's so effective.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking with about a sound designer in the Nepali theater scene named Neupane.
Yeah, Neupane, he's really interesting because, like we were just talking about, sound design is often overlooked, but he's really trying to like push the boundaries of what it can be.
Yeah, and he's kind of a pioneer, it sounds like, in Nepali theater.
Yeah, I mean, the article we've got here from the Kathmandu Post, it says that he may be the only dedicated theatrical sound designer in all of Nepal.
Wow, so really pushing the boundaries there. So tell me a little bit about him. Like, how did he even get into sound design?
Well, it's interesting, actually. He didn't start out wanting to be a sound designer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his journey actually began in radio dramas back in the early 2000s.
Okay, so he was already working with sound in a storytelling way.
Exactly. He was producing and directing radio dramas, so he was already thinking about how to create these worlds through sound.
So he's got this experience even before he gets to the theater of like crafting these stories and these moods.
Right, and then get this, he went on to study acting. Yeah, so you'd think he would go straight into technical theater, but he clearly had this broader interest in understanding like the whole theatrical process.
It sounds like he really wanted to understand it from both sides, like the performance side and then the tech side.
And it was during an acting course with the renowned director Aryal that Neupane really had this kind of like aha moment.
Really?
Yeah, he started thinking about how sound could be used to express what was happening on stage in a whole new way.
So he's in an acting class and he's thinking about sound.
Yeah, I mean, he even got cast in a student production, but ultimately he just felt this stronger pull towards like the backstage magic, what's happening behind the scenes.
And thankfully he had this mentor who was Aryal, who recognized this in him and was like, hey,
he encouraged him.
You should really focus on sound design.
I focus on this.
Yeah, that was a good move for him, it sounds like.
It was. And from there, Neupane really just immersed himself in the craft and started pushing the boundaries of what sound could do in Nepali theater.
Okay, so I'm curious, like, what does that look like in practice? What's his process for designing sound for a play?
Well, according to this article, he starts by reading the script multiple times.
Okay.
Like, first just to get a feel for the story, the characters, the themes, but then he'll read it again specifically through the lens of a sound designer.
So the first time is just like a normal read, and then the second time he's like, okay, where can I add sound? Where can I change the mood?
Yeah, where are those moments that can be heightened or transformed through sound?
Okay.
Like maybe a scene where a character is feeling particularly anxious, or there's a moment of intense love or joy.
Right.
He's really trying to find those moments.
So it's not just like what literally happens in the play, but it's
about like the unspoken emotions, the subtext, the things that can't be conveyed through words alone.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's get into some specifics here. He designed the sound for this play called Dup Dupki, which explores the emotional journey of a couple expecting their first child. And there's this really interesting detail about how he uses these specific sounds to kind of represent that mother-child bond. What was he going for there?
So in Duduki, he uses this blend of really familiar and unexpected sounds. Even before the audience enters the theater, they're enveloped in this classic Nepali song called Sachiraku Justalagsha.
Oh, wow. So he's setting the mood before the play even starts.
Exactly. He's really priming the audience to feel a certain way.
That's a good idea.
Right. And it's not just like a random song choice. This song evokes this feeling of nostalgia, of longing, of something precious.
Right.
Which really aligns with the play's themes of love and anticipation in this new life.
Yeah. So he's already kind of like setting up those themes through sound.
Exactly. And then as the audience takes their seats, they hear a soft, improvised rendition of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
Oh, the lullaby.
Yeah.
So simple, but so effective. Yeah, it makes you think of like a mother and her child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It instantly evokes that tender bond, even before we see any characters on stage.
Right.
It's like he's telling a story through sound. And those two musical choices alone tell us so much about his approach. He's blending the familiar with the unexpected and always carefully considering the emotional impact of each sound.
This is making me think about how much we take sound for granted in our everyday lives. It's always there.
That's like the wallpaper of our lives.
But we don't really think about it, but it's really shaping our whole experience.
It really is. It's like how sometimes you're so focused on the destination that you forget about the journey.
Right.
Sound design is kind of like that. It's that invisible vehicle that gets us to the emotional core of the story.
Yeah, that's a great analogy because you're just so caught up in the world of the play, but it's the sound that's transporting you there.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. He also revealed that because the play focused so much on the maternal psyche, he used a lot of deep bass-heavy sounds to further symbolize that connection between the mother and child.
Okay.
So not just music, but also like these other sounds that he's bringing in.
Yeah, I'm really curious about that because, why deep bass? Like, what's the thought process there?
Well, think about it. Low frequencies, they actually resonate in our chest cavity.
Oh.
So they mimic the feeling of a heartbeat or a close embrace.
Oh, wow.
Like a subconscious trigger for intimacy and connection.
So when we hear those sounds, it's not just that we're thinking about a mother holding a child. Our bodies are actually like feeling a similar sensation.
In a way, yes. And that's the power of good sound design. It works on multiple levels. It's engaging both our conscious and subconscious minds.
That's incredible. So he's using these like deep, almost primal sounds to create this experience for the audience. It's really making me think about like how much intention goes into crafting that immersive experience, So,
yeah, it's not just about picking random sounds and throwing them together.
Exactly.
His process is all about layering different sonic elements to create this rich, nuanced soundscape.
Yeah.
He uses everything from pre-recorded music and sound effects to like Foley and even like unusual instruments to create those textures.
I was going to say, because his mentor even mentioned like using sounds of like rain or a typewriter.
Yeah,
what
yeah.
can't he use?
Right. It's like he's always searching for those unexpected sounds that can just add depth and realism to a scene.
Yeah.
It's like he's composing a symphony, but instead of instruments, he's using the sounds of the world around us.
I love that. And it reminds me too of how we were talking earlier about how sound can mimic physical sensations.
Right.
So it's like he's not just creating an auditory experience.
Yeah.
He's engaging your whole body.
Exactly.
You're feeling the story.
Yeah. And speaking of collaboration, he doesn't work in isolation.
Right.
He collaborates closely with the director, the actors, the lighting designers, everyone involved to make sure that the sound is perfectly integrated with all the other elements of the play.
So it's not just about the sound itself, it's about how it works with
Exactly.
the visuals and the dialogue. And
it's all about creating this unified experience for the audience where every element is working together seamlessly.
it's like they're all painting a picture together, but using different senses as their brushes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, he works closely with the actors to understand the nuances of their performances and how sound can amplify the emotions that they're conveying.
So like if an actor's portraying grief, like could a subtle sound effect make that even more impactful for the audience?
Absolutely. Imagine you're sitting in the theater and
Right.
suddenly...
Yeah, I love when you do this, set the scene.
Okay, picture this. The lights dim, a hush falls over the audience, and you hear the faintest sound of a baby's heartbeat pulsing through the speakers. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it immediately draws you in. It creates this sense of anticipation and this heightened awareness of what's to come.
Oh, that gave me chills.
That's Neupane at work, pulling you into the story before a word is even spoken.
That's so cool. It's incredible how like such a simple sound can have such a huge effect.
Yeah, and it makes you think about, how much we need to pay attention to the soundscapes of our own lives.
Right.
We're constantly bombarded with noise. But how often do we really stop to listen, to appreciate the subtle ways that sound shapes our emotions and our experiences?
It's true. It's like we're so used to filtering out all the noise
Right.
that we forget how powerful it can be.
Yeah. But in a theatrical setting, you're forced to confront it.
Right.
You have to let it wash over you and transport you.
And you're more open to it because you're already there to experience something.
Exactly. And that's what makes Dev Neupane's work so important. He's not just creating beautiful sound. He's reminding us of the power of this often overlooked art form.
So if it's so crucial, why is it so overlooked? What are we missing when we don't pay attention to the soundscape?
It's almost like our brains prioritize the visual information that's coming at us, and sound kind of takes a back seat.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it's not having a profound impact on us.
So it's like we're just not even noticing it, even though it's
Exactly.
stimulus.
And, another challenge that he faces is that, there's often a limited budget allocated to sound design.
Right, because I imagine sound design equipment is not cheap.
Yeah, it can be really expensive, and that can make it really difficult to acquire high-quality equipment or to hire additional help.
Yeah, and when you consider like how much thought and effort goes into his work, it seems like a shame that it's not always given the resources it deserves.
Right. It's essential to the success of the play.
Yeah.
It's just as important as the set design or the acting.
It's all part of telling the story.
Exactly. And beyond the financial challenges, there's also this lack of widespread recognition for sound design as a distinct art form.
Right. People don't really think about it.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't realize this skill and creativity that it requires.
The director of Dukbuki actually said that, a lot of sound technicians in Nepali theater are more like sound collectors.
Yeah.
What did he mean by that?
I think he was making a distinction between someone who just plays generic music or sound effects.
Okay.
And a true sound designer like Neupane, who carefully crafts a soundscape that's integral to the story.
So it's not just making things sound good. It's about using the sound to enhance the narrative.
Exactly.
To create an emotional impact.
Yeah, and that's what sets Neupane apart. He's not just a technician. He's an artist who's pushing the boundaries of his craft and really elevating sound design in Nepal.
Yeah, he's kind of on a one-man mission, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
And he's not content with just doing his own work. He's also really passionate about teaching the next generation of sound designers.
Yeah, he's actually developing a whole syllabus for a 15-day course, which I think is fantastic. It speaks to his dedication to the future of Nepali theater and ensuring that sound design gets the recognition and support it deserves.
Yeah, he's not just creating art. He's nurturing a whole new generation of artists who understand the power of sound.
Exactly.
So we've got this incredibly talented artist working in a field that's full of challenges, but he's not letting that stop him. He's creating incredible work, he's pushing boundaries, and he's mentoring the next generation.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about the state of Nepali theater as a whole?
I think it reveals a really interesting tension. On one hand, Nepali theater is clearly evolving and growing. There are new venues opening, talented artists like Neupane are emerging, and there's this real desire to experiment and push creative boundaries.
And we see that in his willingness to experiment with sound and his collaboration with other artists and his dedication to teaching.
Exactly. It's a sign of a vibrant art scene that's full of potential.
But on the other hand, there's still this struggle for resources and recognition and a deeper understanding of the technical aspects of theater, like sound design. Right.
So it's like this art form that's bursting with potential,
yeah,
but it needs more support and infrastructure to really thrive.
Exactly. And that's where someone like Neupane becomes even more important,
Right.
He's not just creating beautiful sound. He's advocating for the art form itself.
Yeah.
Raising awareness and inspiring others to see its value.
He's like a one-man PR team for sound design.
Exactly.
I love it. So we've got this amazing artist who's doing incredible work and pushing boundaries, but they're told these challenges that the art form as a whole is facing.
Right.
It's inspiring to see somebody like that, really going above and beyond in a field that doesn't always get a lot of attention.
It really is. Yeah. And I think, his work goes beyond just like elevating sound design in Nepali theater.
Okay.
I think it has like broader implications for how we think about like art and storytelling as a whole.
Tell me more about that. How does his work connect to this bigger picture?
Well, for one thing, it highlights the growing importance of like these multidisciplinary approaches to art,
His background isn't just in sound. He's explored acting, directing radio drama. All these experiences kind of inform his unique approach to sound design.
So he's able to see the whole picture, not just his little corner of it.
Exactly. And I think it also speaks to the evolving role of technology in the arts.
Yeah.
In the past, sound design might have been seen as a purely technical role.
Right.
But Neupane is showing us that it can be so much more than that.
He's using technology as a tool for creative expression.
Right.
To push the boundaries and really create something special.
And that's something that resonates far beyond the realm of theater.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about the way sound is being used in video games and virtual reality.
Wow, yeah.
Immersive installations, all this stuff. It's about creating these worlds that engage our senses on multiple levels, and sound is a crucial part of that.
So it's not just about making plays sound good. It's about really like shaping the future of how we experience art.
Exactly.
That's a really big deal.
It really is. And it raises some interesting questions about how we value different art forms too.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
sound design, like many behind-the-scenes roles, is often overlooked.
Yeah.
But Neupane's work is a powerful reminder that these unsung heroes are essential to creating truly impactful and memorable art.
It's like that analogy we used earlier about the boat on the lake.
Yeah,
You might not be thinking about the boat, but without it, you wouldn't be able to experience the beauty of the scenery.
right. And just like a skilled boatman
Hmm.
can navigate, treacherous waters, a talented sound designer can guide us through these like complex emotional landscapes,
Yeah.
using sound to heighten tension or evoke nostalgia or create a sense of wonder.
I love that. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Dev Neupane, what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will walk away with?
I hope they gain a deeper appreciation for the power of sound. Not just in theater, but in every aspect of their lives.
Yeah,
Sound is all around us. It's a fundamental part of how we experience the world.
right.
But how often do we really just stop and listen? Pay attention to the subtle ways it shapes our emotions and our perceptions.
We're so used to tuning it out
Exactly.
that we forget how powerful it can be.
And I think that's why theater, and specifically sound design, can be so powerful. It forces us to slow down, to pay attention, and to truly listen.
Right.
And in doing so, we might discover like a whole new level of appreciation for the world around us.
I love that. And, kind of to leave our listener with something to think about, let's go back to that idea of sound as a storytelling tool.
Okay.
What are some everyday sounds that could be used to create those powerful theatrical moments? I'm thinking about like the hum of a refrigerator or the clicking of a keyboard.
Yeah, those are great examples.
Right.
What about the distant wail of a siren or the creak of a door on a dark and stormy night?
Oh, yeah.
It's all about context.
Right. The same sound could mean something totally different.
Exactly.
Depending on how it's used.
It's like a challenge for our listeners to start paying attention to the soundscape of their daily life and think about the stories that those sounds could tell.
It's all a matter of listening with intention and using a little imagination.
So to our listeners, I encourage you to go out and explore the sonic world around you. Listen to the sounds of your city, your home, your workplace. What stories are those sounds telling? What emotions do they evoke? You might be surprised by what you discover.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive. Until next time, happy listening.